Hello once again, watchers of good movies. My name is Nick Pell and this is my review of Little Women. Now this is the second film from director Greta Gerwig, who also did the 2017 film Lady Bird, which I also really enjoyed. And this is an adaptation of a novel by the same name, and this version stars Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, and Eliza Scanlon as Jo, Meg, Amy, and Beth. Now, easily the best part of this film, in my opinion, is the cast chemistry, because it has these four actresses that we get to see their various lives as it kind of jumps between time periods, showing them 7 years prior and 7 years after those events, and they just really do feel like sisters. They just have such great chemistry and such great dynamic on screen that it just felt so natural to see them interact with each other, and it really felt very genuine seeing them all just act like sisters. You have them getting angry with each other. You can just sense just issues between them which don't necessarily come to the surface, but just the way that they are able to act amongst each other. It just comes off very well and very genuine, like I said. And it allowed me to become much more engrossed within the film as a result, because I just felt like I was actually watching four sisters act on screen together, and that was really cool. All the actors in this film just do a really good job as well, including these four-man actresses. And one thing that I also really liked is that while I would argue that Saoirse Ronan's Jo character is the main character of this film per se, because it follows her journey throughout the majority of the film, it does take a significant amount of time focusing on Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, Eliza Scanlon, their characters' journeys throughout the course of the film. And I did appreciate that, just kind of getting to see where they're coming from, what they're doing, and seeing them interact with other characters throughout the film as well. And while the cast chemistry is really fantastic, the thing that also draws you in is just how genuinely funny this film is. I was laughing many times throughout the course of this film, just because of situational comedy that happened throughout the course of the film, just based on character dialogue and just things that happen. It's a very funny film, and that was not something I was necessarily expecting going into this movie, and it just allowed me, again, to just become much more invested in it, and it just allowed the time to just fly by for me. This is a 2 hour and 15-minute movie, and the pacing is fantastic for it, because I was never really bored, and it kind of had the same sense as Ford vs. Ferrari to an extent, in that it's not a film that I knew a lot about going into, and I've never read the book. I knew very little about the story overall, and I was just completely enveloped in it, and I just could not really look away, and before I knew it, the film was almost done, and it flies by, and it's really cool to see that happen with a book adaptation of something which takes place during the mid-1800s, and that's something that I think would be tough to do. Something that the film also does really well, in my opinion, is how it really deals with these four women and them dealing with what their own dreams are, what their own ambitions and goals are in life. Because you have Saoirse Ronan's Jo character, who is a very ambitious writer. She wants to write, she wants to have these lofty goals, but she has no real desire to fall in love, to get married, to do all these things which you would think to be typical of a woman during this time period. And then you have her sister Meg, played by Emma Watson and Florence Pugh, and they are very much wanting to get married. They want to fall in love. They want to find somebody to spend their life with. And you also get to kind of dive into the economic reasons for that as well, because women during this time period did not have nearly as many rights as they do today. They didn't own their children when they had them, and they really couldn't really make their own money in any significant way. They had very few options in that regard. And so that is dived into a little bit towards about the midpoint of the film, with one of these four women, which I really enjoyed seeing, because you can tell that it's not necessarily all having to do with love with a lot of these marriage situations. It's a lot of just, you have to basically find somebody to marry in order to survive, and that's something which I thought was really interesting, as well as just seeing how all four of these characters deal with the themes of love and dreams and all that type of stuff. I thought it was really well done, and again, kept me interested in the film going forward. The ending is also kind of interesting for me, and it's kind of a split pro and con for me, because it kind of spoilers for the ending, but it's a book that's been out for a while, so if you don't care, keep watching. One thing that I found kind of interesting about the ending is that throughout the course of the film, Jo is writing this big, massive novel, kind of comes and culminates towards the end of the film. And she submits it, and it's revealed to be Little Women. It's the book or the story that we've been watching on screen. But it's based on her life and life of her sisters. And so you would think that there's some things modified, but it also flashes back and forth at the end between what seems to be reality and what's also the fictionalized version of the story. And so it kind of leaves with an ambiguous ending in that you're not really sure necessarily what's necessarily fact, what has actually happened, and what if what you're seeing is legitimately what's happened to these four women, because it has a very happy ending overall. But it's kind of interesting to see or to leave that kind of loose thread hanging, because I don't know, I just found it kind of interesting because it's not an ending that I really expected, and it doesn't necessarily leave you knowing full well what ended up necessarily happening. So I just found that kind of interesting because it doesn't necessarily leave with a full fleshed out ending necessarily, or like something that has a definite conclusion, but I do like the ambiguousness of it, in that it's not something that is necessarily done all the time, especially in films and books, I guess, if assuming this is accurate, of this extent. So I kind of enjoyed that aspect as well. But guys, overall, I didn't really have a lot to say negative about Little Women. I enjoyed it. I thought the characters were all very charming and fun to watch. They had very funny dialogue, which added a lot of comedy to it. The four main actresses all did really, really well done in their roles. They had the very sisterly vibe to them throughout the course of the whole film, which felt very genuine and real, and I really liked that aspect of it. It's paced really well. The time just flies by, and I don't think the film is for everyone. Yeah, if you have seen the trailer and you think that's not going to be for you, you're probably right. The trailer that I've seen, at least, sets pretty much what the tone of the film is, more or less. And so if it's not something that you're interested in, you probably won't like it as much as I did. But if you're into kind of a period comedy of sorts, which kind of has a modern twist on an old story, I think you'll enjoy it. So yeah, take that for what it is. But those are my thoughts on Little Women. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I appreciate it immensely. And also, let me know what your favorite book to film adaptation is. I'd be very curious what your thoughts are. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell. And once again, keep on watching.